Hi guys, it's me, just listening again. And for this video that I will be dedicating to a month of love in February of 2026, I shall be talking about something a little bit different than your typical love story. I will be talking about my love of cinema and talking about the supposed greatest movie of all time. Now, I wouldn't exactly go as far as to say that about this movie, but this is what I've heard from many people. I've heard that this movie is the greatest movie of all time. And being that I love cinema, as in the case of this movie, yeah, this is actually a free copy of a movie that I got from the film crew that actually made the movie here in my town. Well, that in the neighboring towns, but that's beside the point. Anyway, this is The Dead Don't Die. And the movie is, far from a great cinematic experience. It's very, very crappy and it's very poorly made. But there are some big stars in it. Anyway, this movie, Citizen Kane, the subject of this video, has been a history with me. Because you see, my mother was in a hospital, slowly losing her life to cancer. My father and I and my relatives stayed in the Ronald McDonald house to stay with her in her last hours. And this is actually kind of interesting because it was the very same Ronald McDonald house that they stayed in when I was sick with my little condition many years ago. So kind of like fell full circle in a grim way. But I was watching this movie in the house, and it was in VHS format. So I decided to stop halfway through it, and then I would go to sleep the next day, and finish it up the next morning or so before I went to go see my mother. And yeah, didn't go so well. Because the next morning at about 11 o'clock, I found out that my sweet mother passed away. So, as you would expect, I was devastated. And I got sick right there on the spot. And yeah, it wasn't a very good day for me. So, unfortunately, I wasn't able to see the rest of the movie. Until recently, I was able to see it. I finally buckled down and saw it. Now, I'll get emotional with this movie because it has no emotional context with me and my mother. But let's see here. Some things that would get under my skin as it were with on that subject, or the movie, or the episode Inuyasha with the sleep demon. Anyway, in any case, this movie is great. It's often titled the greatest movie of all time, like I said. But I would disagree with that. I mean, there were many techniques in the storytelling things in the movie that were unprecedented at the time. The movie came out in 1941, I believe. So it was right in the middle of the Great War, or the war to end all wars. So it was a pretty big deal because most of the effort was put towards war propaganda, war movies, war films, documentaries, seeing how great America was at the time, that kind and how the actual evil was like the worst thing in the whole wide world, which it was. I ain't gonna lie about that, but this movie was about a newspaper empire, and in particular one guy that'd be Mr. Charles Foster Kane, played very famously by Orson Welles in his first cinematic appearance, by the way. Now, I want to say that this movie is like one of the first movies. It's not the first movie to actually involve like storytelling that's out of order. Like, for example, we have in the very beginning, you have him dropping that big snow globe like this, like Rosebud, and then people are like, "What the hell does Rosebud mean?" And what's even worse is that nobody was around when he said it. Yet the nurse actually comes in afterwards and checks his pulse and all that stuff afterwards. But when I could hear the man say the word Rosebud, people are assuming that it's some kind of pet or a ex-lover or something like that. But it turned out to be a little bit different than that. Now, we know a different type of Rosebud in this day and age. Now, I'm not gonna mention anything in particular, but yeah, I don't want to be kicked off YouTube, so I'm not gonna mention what it is right now. But anyway, it's the man's sled when he was a kid. It's on the wooden sled, which I do have nostalgic memories of like old toys and stuff and games from way back when, but not when I'm like a person 80, 70 or 80 years old like he is. That's kind of a little bit too far of a stretch, if you ask me. Although granted, he's been through a lot, so more than likely he wanted to hold on to the memories of anything that was happy in his life. So Rosebud was the only thing that actually brought him happiness, pure happiness in a world filled with people trying to take your money from you, trying to fraud you, trying to take away your loving, all that stuff, take away your empire, whatever, what have you. But anyway, we start with Chucky Boy, and he's like a very rich guy, like ungodly rich, and it's like the 19 teens ish. He's got a big death fortune. Now I think that that Charles Foster Kane is more of a amalgamation of a few different people in real life. So this is not really a true story type thing. It's more of a quasi biographical thing about one of the characters that William Randolph Hearst, one of the newspaper pioneers. And way back when, a newspaper was like a social media of today's world. But back then, so around the yeah, newspapers actually predate you and me. And what's even funny is that you had the guy Kane Kane using a old-fashioned typewriter. My mother had one of those things. Now, that being said, no emotional connection whatsoever. But anyway, he has a vast compound in Florida called the Xanadu. Now, for those of you who don't know, Xanadu is also the name of a famous and bad movie in the 80s about roller skating. And I cannot go into roller skating and develop neon, like, afterlife. It grows so fast that you get, like, you get after images like Goku or Tien or somebody like that from Dragon Ball. It's real cool. I mean, I like the movie, but apparently it was crappy. That's two crappy references. Two movie references that are crap in this greatest movie of all time thing. So anyway, this thing this compound is like state art, and it's got like all kinds of marble statues and gold everywhere. And yes, man, I would love the movie and see all this luxury and palm trees and all this other stuff. I couldn't help but think of this one place in Florida right now that really exists, and I couldn't help but think of the main guy in charge of it all. Yep, that's right, Donald J. Trump. And Mar-a-Lago. Yeah, I couldn't put together. Now, that being said, this fictional character is a lot more successful, a lot more well-known, and a lot more popular than Trump will ever be. Even in his heyday, before all the Epstein files came to light, despite his best efforts. But, yeah, this movie is about a fabulously rich guy who makes up a giant news story thing, thing for people to gather and find out about scandalous articles about celebrities and politicians and stuff. Basically, it's a true social of the 1920s. But yeah, I don't want to make too many references to Donald Trump, but still, it's kind of funny actually the way they kind of synced up perfectly with him now. And he wanted to marry this girl, and yeah, another Trump reference here. That Mr. Kane is like somewhere like in his 30s or something like that. And this girl is somewhere like below 20 years old at least. Played by Dottie. I think her name is Comward. Something like that. Something with U-M in front. Anyway, she plays Susan, Mr. Kane's second wife. Now, he comes off like, like a big tough guy and stuff. So she invites him in for dinner and coffee and stuff. And we all know how hot coffee works. But, being that it's that time of the century, people over there are very, anti-social as far as men and women together. So they have to do everything on the hush-hush until they finally get married and all that. So he finds out that she can sing. So he buys her build a Chicago Opera House in Chicago. Now, people always say that a woman can't think with shit. I don't mind it that bad. I don't mind it that much. It ain't as bad as it. You're going on, or say some of the screeching owls I heard so far in the wild here. But it ain't bad. It certainly isn't like Andrea Bocelli. But ain't bad. So anyway, they show that this guy is showing this woman with wealth and with popularity and all that. And she's over there soaking away and everything. And like, at the end, she's like, you never loved me. You just bought me. You just bought my love. Which is a bit true. That most rich people just shower their lovers with riches and just expect them to love them. But it takes a real nice person to really love someone for who they are. You don't have to buy them this, you don't have to buy them that, you don't have to buy them that. A little attention nice, but you don't gotta go away and buy like a whole building just for them. So anyway, he does give you funny lines with like for example whenever he calls his other friend and whatnot old. That's pretty funny. But yeah, they haven't been a real jerk toward the end of the movie. And the thing is that they also show these reporters want to know what Rosebud is, what it means. So they're trying to talk to Russian guys that work for Charlie, and they bribe him with like $1,000, and I have no idea how much that would be in today's money. Let me see, more like $100,000 or $1 million to bribe someone for information on Rosebud, his last words, or last word I should say. So yeah, this whole thing is like a mystery type thing. And in the flashback when they show him as a little kid playing around with the actual slide itself, they actually show the name Rosebud on there, like a company brand of Rosebud slides. So that it kind of gives away, but I'm gonna assume that nobody who was told in theaters probably really gave two craps about the details like that. So then it mostly passed them by. Also, I gotta say that it took a lot of balls to actually show this movie to film this movie in black and white, where I know that Wizard of Oz came out two years earlier, and that was a bright masterpiece of color. With like the big showpiece for the Technicolor technology. So I know for a fact that it could be done in color, but they probably want to do it like It's a Wonderful Life or something like that, where it will look more classical in black and white and more timeless too. And you know what? They do show that they do the flashback as more of a whimsical type of thing. Like he's supposed to be like a crotchety old man by the end of the movie, like alone, and they think like he saw the world, he saw the nastiness and the isolation of the world to give away its fortune to somebody else. So anyway, used and abused and all that. So yeah, he has a good right to be bitter. But yeah, the bad thing is that at the end of the movie, the ex-joke will be the people actually going through rummaging through all his belongings, and discarding what they don't want and what they don't think is necessary. Lo and behold, this rosebud, this priceless antique that the old man cherished were always taught, and it was even the last word being tossed into the fire like refuse, like garbage. You know what? That's really sad that something like an element like that were to be destroyed. You know, if the poor guy had just looked in the garbage pile and he seen all that stuff, they would have seen what Rosebud really was. That it was a homeless sled and a childhood toy. Which I don't know. That's that sled's a little bit dangerous to me, but what do I know? I'm just the kind of wheelchair who doesn't know anything about sledding. Anyway, I also like the film guide tribute to this episode where they have a couple going throughout watching the movie for the first time and seeing the word Rosebud, and Peter Griffin says it's a sled from childhood that I just said get 2 hours, 2 boobless hours. Like as if any great movie, as if all movies have to have breasts and asses and all that other sexual stuff to be good movies. You know, that doesn't funny because back then it was kind of unheard of to have sex, and back then it was almost unheard of for them not to curse, and it was also not non-existent to use any type of defamatory language. But I think that they use words all the time, like certain words that you probably shouldn't say right now to describe certain people. But then yeah, I enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed seeing this whole big boom of this whole event of this newspaper industry from like an everyday thing, you know, to become an everyday type of affair of making newspaper. And I enjoyed, you know, this whole rise to power. Almost like, you know, this movie actually has a lot of comparisons with, like, say, Scarface. In that it was about a person that rose from relative obscurity into this whole big, huge magnate. A little bit faster Kane. It was more like entertainment, more like the old journalism where he would print up like scandalous acts about celebrities and politics and whatever, and put it in the paper so that people would read about gossip and all that other crap. Until one time, it's more about the drugs, and he wrote came that way. And they both died in a very humble way, alone and afraid, and with nobody really giving a crap about them. But we will always remember Tony Montana and so friend, right? And you know what? I will always remember Rosebud, because Rosebud is actually really funny and really cool. And that's all I gotta say about that. So yeah, I enjoyed this movie. And I enjoy. Thank you for watching my video on Citizen Kane, the supposed greatest movie of all time. So any cinema people would say, or cinema study and culture would say. Now, I gotta admit, this is pretty nice because they say in the credit sequence that this movie was like the people, that many of the people in this movie made the movie as the first in the cinematic appearances. So that was pretty good. So they actually say something like Gary Stu blah 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 person for doing such a good job on the first run. You know what? Miss Doggy did a good job with playing the innocent Susan first, and then she became more and more dissatisfied with Mr. Kane. And she did a good job until she shut off completely emotionally by the end of the movie, which was actually pretty good. Kind of true to life, actually. That's probably why people love it so much. And so let's hear the way Kane became very bitter at the end. Very single-minded at the end. Where in the first couple of things with always searching for power, searching for the next big thing. I guess then somebody else I know of. But also, I gotta give credit to this movie for being 2 hours long. That must have been almost unheard of for this time period in cinema. It'd be like making Lawrence of Arabia or Titanic. 2 really long movies at the time, like around the World War II era, where everything was focused on the war effort or propaganda or whatever. That was really impressive. I did this my month of love in February of 2026 because I love the art of cinema making, of filmmaking and all that. Anyway, I give this movie my happy face Liverpool. Because, I would consider it the greatest movie ever made about love, romance, and this one guy's life. I would say that it's pretty damn good. Especially because I didn't expect any of it. No, I know about the whole Rosebud thing, but I didn't expect it to be this good. The whole twists and turns and comparisons with certain people that I won't mention the name of it anymore. Well, it's not in this video. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed seeing him grow up from a little kid that was very into being by himself and being with his toys and all that, to growing up to be a super powerful, super influential newspaper leader, pioneer, to be a big old man. Yeah. If you like what you see here, want to see more of my videos, then like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel. And also, contact me for future information on my future videos by calling me or texting me at 621-707-3707. And if you like, you can always reach me by following me on Twitter or X if you prefer at P Nelson Pro. Also, you can get me my email address at jjsviewingchannel@gmail.com. So, I salute all people who like cinema and all that stuff. And like what movies and classic cinema. I like Orson Welles in this role. I like the way some people in the movie portray are asked about Charles Foster Kane and Rosebud, and they say, yeah, I don't know what it means, but it'd be real funny if they said, I know Kane. He was a giant jackoff. He was an asshole and a public figure. But yeah, it's a different day. So peace out, my brothers and sisters. I'll see you in the next video. All you girls and guys in Gentland. Sayonara, ciao ciao, and I'm saying.